Welcome, everybody. My name is Lou. Welcome back to what some are calling episode 8 of Brits and Yanks Talk Trek. This is a podcast for Trekkies, Trekkers, and everything in between, brought together with the love of a little game called Star Trek Fleet Command. But obviously, today we're going to be talking about topics from Star Trek, STFC, and just general cultural differences between our friends from both sides of the pond. Obviously, please get involved in the show. We want you to send us your topics. We know that people are enjoying the podcast, so thank you so much for everything that you've done so far in terms of support. We have now, I'm pleased to admit, that we have now got over 1,000 downloads of the podcast, which I'm absolutely astounded with that. I'm absolutely astounded. I want to thank everybody so much. Each and every download really, really counts. Thank you so much for interacting. It's amazing. But please, please, please join our Discord. Let us know what you think of the podcast and offer any suggestions for topics, etc., that you have got to make it better. Do me a favor, share this out with a friend, somebody at home, in your alliance, work, school, anywhere. Share it out with somebody that you think might be interested in getting a little bit more Trek in their life with the Brits and Yank Talk Trek team. Please consider becoming a member as well. If you do like what we do here, try and help towards the ongoing support and production of the podcast for the cost now of just a coffee a month. We have got a low membership now of just $3 a month, so you can come and join us for just a coffee a month, and you're supporting the ongoing support and creation of the podcast, as it were. So please go and do that. It'd be really good. Check that out at itslube.com. That's where you can go and sign up to be a member, and obviously leave us a 6 out of 5 star review on iTunes if you do enjoy the podcast. It really likes it. And thank you so much for leaving all the comments and things you've done. They are amazing as well. We read each and every one of those, and all of them have been so heartwarming. So thank you so much for that. We have decided to take Star Trek Fleet Command's 2024 mantra on this episode of the podcast, and we've decided to go for quality over quantity in terms of the amount of people that have actually got here on the podcast on the panel today. We have got myself, obviously. We've got Mr. Perfection himself. We've got you, Silvis. How are you? What do you think about getting 1,000 downloads now on the podcast? How good is that?
1,000 downloads is incredible, and emphasis on quality with the Perfection Man himself here.
Quality over quantity, indeed. We have also got the Triple Mother herself. Minnie, did you ever think we'd get to 1,000 downloads this quick? How impressive is that?
So quickly, and it is so amazing, all the feedback that we read on the Discord.
It is. It's so good.
It's heartwarming.
And we read every single comment, don't we? And we talk about them on our little internal chats, and it's just so nice that people are enjoying it. And that's what drives us to make more and do more. But like I say, if anything you want us to talk about, please, please, please let us know on one of the relevant platforms. As we typically do, we are going to start off with our STFC topic of the pod. And what I've asked the panel to do today is to consider an events topic. So the topic this week is about events that you would like to see return. So events that you have ran in the past that you really enjoyed that just seem to have fallen by the wayside, or events that you would like to physically bring into STFC. If you can come up with a brand new method of scoring, obviously again, total pie in the sky with this sort of thing. What would you like to see in terms of events here in STFC? So, I mean, we'll start off with you, Minnie, obviously, because I think you've been in the game, obviously the shortest out of the three of us that are currently on the panel on the podcast at the moment. Is there any particular event series that you used to see when you first started, or anything that you saw at the lower levels that you don't see anymore? Do you know, is there anything events wise that you would like to see come in or come back into STFC with regards events?
I really enjoyed the star charts. There was one arc, and they brought it just into the next arc, and it was the star charts for the lower level players, which I was, because I was under 40, and then post 40, and it was just taking you to different star charts just from the image, and that image could have been rotated 50 degrees or 180 degrees, and it was like a brain teaser. I loved it.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean now. It was like the trivia event, wasn't it? And on the event card where you're clicking it to see what you need to do to complete that event, it had like a graphic with different systems on, didn't it? And you had to sort of decipher which system it was that you were supposed to be going to, which is where the actual action of the event was to be able to score. It was that one, wasn't it?
Exactly, yes.
And what do you think of trivia events in general? I mean, obviously there's been lots of trivia events over time. That's not something they need to bring back. We do tend to get one most months, don't we? A trivia event of some kind. Is that something that you like? Is it something you think you'd like to see more of?
I love the trivia. I love the trivia events, especially the ones where if I've just recently rewatched a film or a series, and I'm like, I know an answer, and then I argue, obviously, of course, because STFC obviously get them wrong when I go to the wrong place. So no, I do
It can't be
enjoy the
you, can it?
trivia.
Can't be you. It
It's
has,
not me.
it has to be the
No.
game, doesn't it? It has to be the game that's got
How
it right.
much parasteel should I have been mining to get this answer right?
Yeah, that one steal, surely that should have counted, wasn't it? The one that I've mined in the last 3 seconds. No, absolutely. No, and I agree. I think trivia events are a really, really hot topic, and they're one of the favourites of the community. I really think they are. Sometimes they go a bit left field, don't they, Silvis? Do you remember that trivia event where you had to decipher Klingon? Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do. I've really enjoyed the different trivia events that they've put out. You mentioned the Klingon one, where you had to essentially copy and paste the prompt into a Google Klingon calculator or translator to
Do you mean you don't know
figure
your
out what you're
Klingon?
supposed to do.
Do you mean you don't know Klingon?
No, I don't. Sorry. I'll get right on that.
Point down for next week. He's making a note. Learn Klingon for the next show. Kapla?
Yeah, I'll have that done. And Minnie mentioned the star charts. There was also a music-based one where you had to.
Oh, I remember. I wish Stewie was here for this. But yeah, go on. I think I know exactly which one you mean.
I don't remember the exact scenario, but I think you had to break down the notes or the tune or whatever it was. I remember it was music related, and almost nobody could figure it out on their own. But it was such an interesting idea for them to put out,
and
or
sometimes
you couldn't just look it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, some people throw the argument, don't they, the caveat. I mean, nobody will ever say that we're not honest here on Brits and Yanks Talk Trek. Some people say they don't like the idea of there being where you have to leave the game to actually be able to do something within the game, like go to a translator to translate Klingon, or go and decipher what musical note means what and go do it. I ain't bothered about that because I think it's good to see some ingenuity and some creativity within in events, because we all know that as a standard, we've got 3 main things that we can do. We can go kill something, we can go mine something, or we can just go somewhere or do armadas, basically. Do you know what I mean? They're basically the key things, obviously, that we can do within events for scoring mechanics. So I think when they try and add these additional layers of complexity, I think it just drives up engagement, and I think it's something that they could definitely do more. No, great shout, Minnie. I really, really agree that that's a good one. What about you, Silvis? Obviously, you've been in the game longer than Minnie, slightly shorter than myself. But what about older events and things that you'd like to see brought back? Don't steal all the great ones, because obviously I want to be able to actually add something to this conversation.
I was going to say, I've got a couple, so I'll say one and then I'll come back to.
I was going to say let's flip flop, but I think somebody would decipher that in a slightly different manner. So you go first.
Okay. The one that I'll bring up first is the espionage series of events that we saw in Deep Space Nine.
Amazing. Give us some context on what espionage was for somebody that wasn't here when Deep Space Nine came out.
So in the Deep Space Nine arc, September through December of 2022, they created this storyline of an imposter in the crew, and you had to pick between Kira or Miles. I think it was just those two.
It started off as 3. It was Kira, Miles, and Cisco.
Yes, and eventually Cisco got eliminated. He was determined not to be the imposter, but through events and missions, you were tasked with determining who the imposter was, and through rewards that you got in events, you were able to put those towards who you thought was the imposter, and if you ended up choosing correctly, then you would get shards for that officer.
And you got more if it was correct. So again, to add a little bit of the scoring concept to this for anybody that wasn't here, you basically went out, you completed an event. That event paid out a set token. That token you then invested into either a Kira, Miles, or a Cisco bundle. Obviously, Cisco, as Silvis Cisco, as Silvis said, put my teeth back in, was eliminated as the imposter at the end of month 1. So then you were just down to having Miles or Kira as the potential imposter. So you invested in their bundles and you swapped your event currency that you earned into either Kira guesses or Miles guesses, to keep it simple, and you just kept guessing. So obviously if you didn't have a clue, you weren't following up on like the hints and you weren't keeping up with it, you had the opportunity just to go evens on both. So you were just hedging your bets to say, well, I've no idea, I'll just go 50-50 on each, and then when the final reveal was actually given to us, then if you had guessed for the correct character, the tokens invested in there were worth more shards than in the ones that you had invested in to into the wrong officer. So they're still redeemed for shards, didn't the Silvers? But you got more of a bonus for investing within the correct character.
Yes, exactly. And for those that don't know, the imposter turned out to be Kira, and that's why we have 2 Kiras in the game. We have a changeling Kira, who is the imposter. When the arc started in December, they changed the artwork of that Kira to be the changeling Kira, and came up with a new Kira, who was the true non-imposter version. So you got to see right when the arc started, hey, I was right, or dang it, I was wrong. And it was just an interesting way of having a several month long a series of events and investigations that made you think and required some engagement from reading the missions and doing the events to acquire shards for those officers.
Absolutely, and it was one of only 2 times in the game's 5.5-year history where they have changed the name of an officer. So, quick trivia: can you think of the other time where they've changed the name of an officer after release? Can anybody think of it? And if any of the panel can, I'm going to leave it open, and hit us up on Discord or hit us up in the comments for the podcast. And if we don't get it from one of the 2 panelists, I will leave that there and you can let us know in those comments. Do you know?
What if I get the answer from someone whilst we're recording?
I'd rather you didn't, because I know who you're going to ask.
Oh,
I know who you're going to ask, and he
will
know.
To ask.
And he will know.
He will know.
And Stewie does know, and Stewie has just let me know that he does know exactly what it is.
Yeah, he's let me know as well.
you had the opportunity, you missed it. So let us know down in the comments or in the Discord or something. Let us know when there's the other time that names of officer/officers was changed. That's the only 2 times that I can recall doing it. Okay.
I feel like you just gave it away.
Well, I didn't want the question to be ambiguous, but I'm not giving you the opportunity to answer it. So, Silvis, any more? It's my turn. It's my turn. So I'm going to pick another event that I really like from history.
You go.
Yeah. So the event that I really like from history. The old proper style separatist events. So I'm going to talk about these. So the separatist bosses, which you will find in old school G3, Federation, Klingon, and Romulan systems, you will find that there are systems that have got separatists and separatist bosses. Separatist bosses, when they were released, were so hard to kill, to the point where there was maybe one person and your absolute uber whale that could potentially kill them in one hit. They had to be, in essence, ground out by multiple people. So what happened was that you sent one ship in with burning and you attacked it to try and get some damage down with 2 or 3 ships, and then somebody came in for the kill to actually score in points. It was like the first sort of armada, as it were, but it was just a standard hostile. And what I loved about it was that you could get some sneaky little bugger come in from one of the outsides, from another alliance, see that you've been damaging this separatist boss for ages, and then swoop in and steal your kill. And that started wars, it started battles, it started arguments. But as much as that is an after effect of it. It was so fun to do, to have something that was so difficult to kill. Because now we go out to systems, and I bet none of us go out to a system with a ship that we can't grind 20, 30, 40 of those hostiles with our ship. Do you know what I mean? There isn't many where we go out and do that, and we would have to take I think if I said to you, if I said to you, Silvis, you've got to go do a daily or an event, but you have to kill such a high level that it takes you 4 hulls, of your ship, 4 repairs, 4 walk times to kill 1 hostile. I bet you wouldn't do it now.
Pass.
Yeah, I'm not saying. But was you involved in the original Separatist style event?
No, I don't think I was playing at that point.
No, ever so slightly after.
I remember doing it with one of my first alliances, but I don't know if it was during the arc that it came out.
Yeah. So I mean, it was honestly, it was so engaging, it was so fun, it was such a team sport, and that is where the armadas failed on everybody, because they've been used to doing that was team play. Obviously, waves now that we've got, that's team play, and I think the only way really that we can get back to some proper real team play is to have like a server target. Do you know what I mean? A target that multiple people from the server can come and attack, not like an armada, but where you can actually go and you can obliterate this and it, and you've got no chance of killing it in one shot. It takes 10, 15, 20 people to actually go and kill their ships off it, to actually then kill the hostile and score the loot, and that scores in some other way. I think that's the only way really to bring that sort of a mechanic back. How would you feel about that as an idea? Like if you had one big mega target that everybody from the server could go and attack, and that's what we want. We wanted the Borg cube to be, right? We wanted that to be the mega cube. We wanted that to be the way that the mega cube was killed. We didn't want it to just be another armada.
I would prefer that over incursions. Bringing everyone together instead of the blame game. I would love that.
It'd be amazing,
and
wouldn't it?
You actually bring up that idea. This is in other games as well. Another game that I'm actually playing right now because of a sponsorship that we recently did, but they have a large target like this in that game, and you essentially get rewards for each time that you attempt to deal some damage, and you get rewards based on how much damage you dealt. So it's definitely easy to come up with some kind of a target, whether it's Borg or something else, where you'll get some rewards for what damage you've dealt, and eventually when the target is destroyed, it will remember everybody that dealt damage and allow you to get more rewards after it's been defeated.
Oh, that's amazing. And I think that would be such a cool concept. I would be down for that. Minnie, would you be down for that? You say, obviously, in place of incursions. Silvis, obviously, you're engaging in it in another property. So obviously, you'd be down with that sort of thing. And I think it's a way to bring the Separatist fun back into the game. That was a fantastic event that I really loved. That was probably from 2019, Separatists. Obviously the game launching in 2018, so it will have been in the first year of the game. So a really, really old style event. They did try and bring it back, but the problem was when they brought it back, they didn't increase the levels of the system, so people could go and kill Separatists and they could kill 1,000 on a hull. It just didn't have the same razzmatazz as the original Separatists did when everybody was going out there with Kiras and Talas and all that sort of thing. And there
North Stars,
and they were using envoys with Nero just to try and get some additional burning damage, because burning works differently then as well. We'll get into that, but burning used to work differently to the way that it does today in the game. So yeah, no, good. Go on then, Silvis. We'll move on to yours. Or have you got another one, Minnie, before we go to Silvis's next one on his list?
I was just going to ask then about the worm system.
Okay.
You know, with the armadas and things, it's something I've never come up. Obviously, we have Go and Kill the Worms, and they are absolutely fantastic for ship XP. But the actual volcano armada type things, never seen the currency in game. No idea what it's about.
Silvis?
That was actually on my list.
Hey.
That came out during the TOS arc. The worms events and the armadas, and it was a way of sourcing the TOS officers that never really got off the ground when the arc ended.
No. Salvage, it was called. Once the loot that used to drop was called Salvage, Tech Salvage, that it used to drop.
Something like that.
And just to add a bit of a canon to this, it's based on the Doomsday Machine. Doomsday Machine being from a very famous episode of Star Trek, the original series. Obviously, that's why it came out in the TOS arc. And obviously, the worms are a STFC creation. They were never seen anywhere, but the actual armadas themselves are mimicked on the Doomsday Machine. And what did you like about it then, Silvis? What did you like about it as an event that, or a type of event that you think you'd like to see come back?
It's just another hostile event that got forgotten about, basically. I had it on my list more for a laugh than as a serious suggestion. But I will say that if they brought it back with the increase of sourcing for TOS officers or even other officers, then I think it would be an improvement to the game.
Agreed. No, I absolutely agree. So we'd like to maybe see something from maybe not the actual worms, because the worms were universally hated, weren't they? And everybody hated that Battle Pass event, which is probably why they got rid of it. And it was not to do with the fact of the worms themselves, because the artwork and things that went into them was superb. The artwork that went into them was absolutely brilliant. It really was. The issue was that they dropped 12 steel.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? That was the issue with them. The worms dropped nothing, which is why they're not used now as a mechanic, and why they were so universally hated to be put in events, was because they did nothing for you.
The other reason was that the higher levels would have to hit so many more hostiles because they didn't scale up. So if you were in the high 50s or even the 60s, you would have to hit a lot more than a level 50 would, but you're hitting the same hostile because that's where it maxed out, but you'd be hitting a lot more just because your ops level is higher.
Because the highest system for the worms is 50. That's the highest system of worms that there is.
And it didn't scale.
Interestingly, in the game as it stands right now, if you are not at the level to take on Eclipse Armada traders or Eclipse traders, then the event is worms.
Oh, really?
So the killing of the worms themselves is still in the game. It's just that bit with the actual Armada bit, because you end up going to that system with the Armadas just to get the odd 37 or the odd 38, as opposed to being in a system with, like you say, 29,000 players all going for thousands and thousands of worms.
Makes sense. So interesting that they're still using it as some sort of a mechanic, but I totally agree that it's a waste of some fantastic artwork, if nothing else. Even in the systems look brilliant as well, don't they? But bit of a waste, bit of a flop. But yeah, I agree. I would like to see that come back. The next event that I want to talk about, I'll go down. Or is it my turn, or is it your turn, Silvis?
You're going to go to me next, I thought.
You shoot then. Go on. What's your next one?
I've got a couple more on the list. I think Disco PvP could come back.
Okay. Or specialist ship PvP in general, do you think?
That would work. I did enjoy the Disco PvP in the beta systems of territory.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that, but there's a fine line in the specialty ships, just because so many specialty ships now are 35 plus and 40 plus. So I think if you were to offer something that would be available for everyone, then the Disco or even Rialto PvP is the way to go. The Discovery being a ship that comes out of Ops 21, you can have it maxed at Ops 30, and it's relatively weak in power as compared to some other ships that come out.
And the reason that's a benefit is because then it makes crew matter. Of course, research impacts it, but it makes crew more impactful. They did do a series of events as well. This is something that I didn't think of until you've just mentioned the Disco PvP. They did a series of events where you had to use a grade 1, and then the next day it was a grade 2, and the next day it was the grade 3 common ships. So obviously it was just a round robin of 3 days. I can't remember the name of that series. Again, I wish Stewie was here because Stewie might remember the name of that series. It was like a series of events where you started off having to use your Rialta and then your oh gosh, he's throwing me back now. Your I always call it an onion courgette, but it's not, is it? A Ryan Corvette. Ryan Corvette. And then you moved on to 2-stars, which was things like the Findra and the Taurus and the Tala, and then the 3-star commons, which was obviously the Kira, the Vaklis, and the Kumari. So you had to use those ships in PvP, and Triangle really mattered. Triangle was huge, but obviously Cruise mattered as well. And I really enjoyed those series of events because it put people on a more level playing field, as opposed to just saying faction ship PvP, where it's all about who hits first now with the state of PvP in the game. So no, I agree. I think that's a really, really good shout. Anything else you want to add on Disco PvP?
Exactly like you said, it makes it so that it's almost where your ops level doesn't matter as much. Obviously, you're still going to have research that impacts it, but depending on your crewing, you can have somebody defeat you that's 10 levels lower, and that just doesn't happen in other parts of the game unless you're OPC hunting. So it like you said, it basically levels the playing field really well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'll do my next one. So my next one was a 2020 event, and it was an April Fool's event, and it was for the Borg Tribble. So it was the launch of, at the time, I shouldn't say that. It was for the launch of 10 of 11. So when 10 of 11 was launched into the game, the way that he was sourced in it, he, she, it. Minnie, you're the Tribble mother. Do Tribbles have sex? Or do
yes,
they
do.
That's a very
no.
That's a very different question than what you were asking.
Do they have a gender?
Maybe.
No, well, you must have to have a mummy Tribble and a daddy Tribble to make a baby Tribble. That must have to happen, doesn't it? But anyway, we digress into the biology of Tribbles. We don't need to do that. But they did an April Fool's event, which was unplayable in terms of it being pay to win. It was 100% free to play, and it allowed the sourcing of hundreds of Tribble shards. It was incredible. I actually unlocked my Tribble from this event, and the people that won the actual engagement of that event, it wasn't about killing things, it was about opening bundles and then RNG on the top of it. So they have tried to repeat this. They've tried to do it again, but they've never done it quite as well as this. But basically, you opened a chest every 1 hour, and there was a chest every 4 hours, there was a chest every 12 hours, and they cost different amounts. So you needed to earn enough within your first 4 hours to be able to then open your first 4-hour chest, and then enough to get you 12 hours, and blah, blah, blah. And it was all about accumulating Tribbles. It was about multiplying Tribbles, which fits so well in terms of canon. It fits so well in terms of the storyline of what we know of Tribbles. And it was just such a fun event. I know people that set their alarm for every single hour for a full 48 or 36 hour period, whatever it was, of the actual event. It was insane. People absolutely fell in love with that event because it couldn't be paid for. Your ops level was completely irrelevant. It was all about who was prepared to put the time in terms of being routine to go and press the boxes. And it was all about a little bit of RNG as well at the back, in the background. And that was a fantastic event. I really, really liked it. And I would love to see something like that come back. Not how they tried to do it most recently, but of how it originally was. I really, really would love that. So that's mine. Do you remember that one, Silvis?
Briefly, was that the one that you ended up with like millions of Tribbles?
Millions. I think they were called Hungry Tribbles. Obviously, I'll still have them in my inventory for the game. I'll still have them, obviously, because they never clear anything like that. Silvis, you think of yours, and I'll tell you how, and I'll try and find my Hungry Tribbles and tell you how many I've got left. You do your next one.
Okay. Just adding on to yours quick. Let's go back to mining Tribbles. Let's do that again.
I loved mining Tribbles.
Wasn't that a mission?
It was, and again, it was just a one-off mission. It was just, I think there was only one mission where you had to do it. You had to go mine like 1,000 or something. There's 2 systems up in Klingon space where you can mine those tribbles, and those systems have been used for absolutely nothing else, have they?
Yep.
Wouldn't it be good if they made it like a 10-node system and there was a random SLB for going out and mining and stealing tribbles?
That would be insane.
It'd be mad,
I think
wouldn't it?
that would ruin rules of engagement for a lot of people.
It would, but to hell with rules of engagement. It's all about fun. It's a game. To hell with that. To hell with that. No, totally agree. That would be a really, really good idea for an event series. Any more?
Yeah. This one is more of a spenders event, but it is more of a like one-time spend. I'm thinking of Gold Rush, which is the Latin Rush event that basically requires you to have the Ferengi whip, Forbidden Tech.
Or mine for 7 hours. It was something mad, wasn't it? It was completable free to play, wasn't it? But it was accelerated heavily with the whip, if I recall.
Yes, it was very heavily accelerated with the whip. What I would say is that if they bring it back, it needs to have both the SMS and the SLB. Allow the free to play that don't have the whip to finish the SMS, get those rewards, but allow the light to heavy spenders to really compete in something that you can spend a little bit to be able to mine it that fast, but once the actual event is on, it's all about time engagement, how long you are spending mining, and it's only good for one ship.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be good if on Mondays from the Latinum event you got an eco or an exo, and it gave you 1 hour of the whip's ability?
Ooh, interesting.
Cool idea. So yeah.
Because I remember that event on the first week, and so few people on our server they got the whip, and I didn't sleep for the entire Latinum rush, so I came 5th.
That's incredible when you compete
without a whip.
And the whip was, I think it should be sourced now. I think it's past its exclusivity period, but the whip is something that I'm happy with in terms of spend. That's what I call good spend. It's something which is not necessary. You don't have to have the whip to do it. And I'm talking about mining specifically. I think you need it for the Forbidden Tech loop. But in terms of mining Latinum itself, you don't need it, but you are paying to accelerate the grind or reduce the time requirements. That's good spend to me. Obviously, the fact that it's got the FT stuff in the background makes it really a must for anybody that wants to progress with their Forbidden Techs. But again, just a little side note on obviously the spending elements of the game. Okay, so we've gone through a lot of events there, and I think the last thing that we're going to cover on events and stuff, I think you wanted to pay us a little bit of homage to seasonal events and holiday events, didn't you, Silvis?
Yeah, kind of going back to your Tribble event, that was kind of like an April Fool's set of events, right? Or at least
correct.
They did run an April Fool's event with Tribbles, but holiday events are something that they've done frequent enough where we are expecting them for most holidays. Obviously, this is an American company. I am a Yank, so I have holidays that come up that I would expect some kind of event to come into the game for. And they've done this for a lot of those. We just within the past 9 months or so, we've had Halloween events, we've had Thanksgiving, we've had Christmas, we've had Valentine's Day events, and those all paid out really well. But we've also missed some events. They didn't have Easter events. I don't know if they ever hit like St. Patrick's Day. I don't know if they hit Memorial Day. They definitely didn't hit Independence Day for us Yanks.
Yeah.
They definitely did one St. Patrick's Day since I've been in the game, because
I know they did it once.
Yeah,
but
it was Miles, wasn't it?
yeah,
Something to do with
they
Miles.
did a Lucky Miles event.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember.
But it's the kind of thing where that's a yearly thing, right?
Yeah, of
St.
course it
Patrick's
is.
Day comes around once a year,
Yeah,
but they
absolutely.
don't always do an event for that. And I don't know if it's just because of a time thing or not wanting to invest the time and money into producing a 2 or 3 day set of events just for this holiday. But I think it's something that a lot of players enjoy. Some players get time off of work for certain holidays, so they might be more willing to spend more time in game because they have that time off. And especially with the Thanksgiving and Christmas events that they did recently, where $20 meant that you got to complete more of those events and get more rewards. I think a lot of players would do that
Yeah.
if they ran these events more.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think holiday events were always, and they were always a little bit of fun as well. That was where they tinkered with event styles and payouts and rewards and milestones. They tinkered with them. And it was an opportunity for a bit of experimentation. And they really hit a few of them on the head. They did really well with some of them. Some of them were very, very lackluster. But no, I totally agree that I think they should pay a lot more time and effort into those holiday events. Because they're not being funny. They're not difficult to plan for, because you've just made the point quite accurately. They're the same every year. Do you know what I mean? They come out every year. So it doesn't take a great deal. And the likes of the Tribble event from that April Fools in 2020, just run it every year. The fact that I don't need
Yeah.
it, because I've maxed 10 of 11, I don't need to engage in that. But Minnie, have you maxed 10 of 11? Silvis, have you maxed 10 of 11?
Nope.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It's something that you could go for, and it was great, and it was massively received. I think sometimes when they have a good thing, they also sometimes fail to miss to actually recognise that they've got a good thing and keep it and repeat it, which was one of the points of the topic. Obviously, some of the really good stuff that we've talked about that we've never seen again, some of the really engaging parts of it have never come back. And I think that's where they are missing a trick sometimes with the mundaneness sometimes of the introduction of events of go kill this, go kill this. I mean, how many months in a row now have we had a separate set of go kill Romulans, go kill Klingons, go kill Federation, kill with an interceptor, kill with a battleship, kill with an explorer? It happened. Why not have a kill with a miner?
Every month.
Have a kill with a miner.
Every month.
Throw something random out there. Go out there and I have to go kill stuff with my Selkie. I've got to go kill stuff with a Nova. Got to go kill stuff with a Moga. Or if you're low levels, go kill stuff with an Envoy. It's easily scalable because you get a fortune at really, really early doors. Everybody's got one. You can scale it for everybody and just make something a little bit more interesting. So I think we've done that topic.
Get creative.
Yeah, just get creative. Be a little bit more creative. If you want any ideas, Scopely, if you're listening, I know Scopely aren't listening. If you're listening, come and see us and we'll give you some ideas. Absolutely marvellous. Okay, we are now going to move on to our next topic of the pod, and we are going to move on to the one and only Freedom and Reason. Yes. Freedom and Reason in here. And the discussion today with the cultural differences between the US and the UK, we are going to go directly into something which I think could be quite divisive. We're going to go into sport when we're talking about sport today. And more specifically, we are going to be talking about football versus soccer and rugby versus football. Obviously, football, I've mentioned that twice. It's because it means something completely different from one side of the pond to the other. Football, as we would call it as a Brit, football is something that you hit with your foot, and that's it. We've got to hit it in the back of the net. The Americans call it soccer. Football in the States is American football, and the nearest thing that we've got to that here, as much as American football is starting to become a little bit of a thing in the UK. We do have teams now in the UK. We would call that rugby.
You have games in the UK too.
We do.
It seems like every year now we've got an NFL game in London.
We do. And that's just because it's fantastic marketing. Do you know what I mean? The NFL doing a fantastic job of marketing the game to try and grow it outside of North America. Do you know what I mean? Trying to do that, and the way to do that is to take it on the road. And rugby are trying to do the same. I don't expect you to know this, but this year the NRL, which is the Australian version of rugby league, actually went and did a double header of games in Las Vegas this year. They actually went and did that, and it was received so well. And next year there's going to be a 4-game series with 2 NRL games, 1 Super League game, which Super League is the British version of rugby league, and a women's game as well from the UK. So they are trying to branch out, and I think it's a fantastic thing that they are doing. So how is soccer? Because football, Mini, rightly or wrongly, it is our national sport, isn't it, Mini football?
It is. As anyone that's listened to your streams will know, you stream every Arsenal match, and I don't know how you manage to do it, but you'll go, I'm going to throw an extra stream on Wednesday. Oh, a kickoff? Excellent.
And yes, she said Arsenal with a no. And that is a team down in London. Yeah, so it is our national sport. It is the biggest game in this country by both monetary, people playing it, everything. It's the biggest sport in this country. How is soccer seen in the US? Where do you think it would grade, Silvis, in terms, if you had to put it on like a ranking, where I'm assuming that NFL is going to be top, and then you've got the likes of NBA, blah, blah, blah. Where does soccer sort of fit in the ranking structure of the US?
I think it's one of the bottom tiers of national sports.
Are you saying it's below wrestling?
No.
Good.
And I'll say that because wrestling, to my knowledge, is not necessarily a national sport. Like, it's like broadcast.
WWF was
entertainment,
huge.
though, isn't it? It's more entertainment. I'm not counting that as a sport. As much as those blokes have to be fit and they do put their bodies through a lot. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to count that on the sport. Yeah, I'm not going to count it on the sporting plethora. I never used to watch wrestling for the talky bits, and when somebody used to come out and kick somebody's ass, that's all I ever used to watch it for. But yeah, so soccer's not really, like, for example, if you used to think of your state, what do you know your closest soccer team? Is it something that you would ever go and see? Is it anything that you're interested in? Do any of your friends interested in it? Do you know what I mean? How is soccer perceived there? Because everybody here virtually supports a soccer team.
It's not as widespread as your top 4 national sports: football, American football, basketball, baseball, and hockey. But it's known well enough. I think the nearest one to me would be the Minnesota United. Don't quote me on that, but that's the only one that I actually know.
Yeah, but the fact that you have to think about Wrexham.
You must know Wrexham. Ryan Reynolds owns it.
He's going to say he's got absolutely no clue. So yeah,
no idea.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds purchased a club in North Wales. Yeah,
I know who Ryan Reynolds is, but I don't know.
Yeah,
the soccer football side of it.
No, but I mean, see that sort of plays into the football versus soccer argument. How big it is over here compared to how small it is really in the US. The fact that you only think you know which is your closest soccer team. I don't think there's anybody in the UK, even if you're not interested in football, who wouldn't know who your closest soccer team was, either geographically or something like that. I think it's huge. If I was to ask you, Silvis, because I could do this for American football. If I asked you to name 3 football teams in the UK that are in the top division, would you be able to do
that? I know Arsenal.
Well done.
Yeah, you did mention it, but I've also got family that are Arsenal fans.
Yes.
Oh, really?
I know there's a team in Liverpool. Not a clue. I know there's a team in Manchester. Not a clue what they are. But no, I wouldn't be able to actually name them.
You've got 2. Liverpool is called Liverpool.
Okay.
And there's 2 in Manchester. So there's Manchester City and Manchester United.
There's virtually
and
two
never
in
the
Liverpool, isn't there?
Challenge.
There's virtually two in Liverpool.
Well,
as
yes, Everton.
Yeah,
But,
there's virtually two there as well.
I would
But
s-
Go.
I would say that in the States, soccer is most common in grade school, high school and down. A lot of kids start it at like the age of 4, and some play it until they're 17, 18 in high school. But as far as college or beyond, it's not as popular as nearly any other major national sport.
no, and I mean,
I'll-
go on, Minnie.
I'll tell you what's confusing for me, and it's something I found out from listening to Ryan Reynolds on the documentary, is the fascination he found with football teams being able to drop down leagues and to literally go from the Premier League right down to the lowest of the lowest divisions if you just don't play well enough. Whereas in America, the teams are the teams, and that's it. They ain't ever going to move.
You don't have promotion and,
That's
and
odd.
relegation.
It's different based on what the league is, but in general, you're correct. Teams don't switch around what sort of league or standing they're in. The only exception to that would be baseball, where you have different tiers of baseball teams, and you can shuffle players around between the teams to have like your best major league players and your next best AAA players and your next best AA players. But that's specific to baseball.
Mhm. And I mean, the franchising model is something that is because that's what we would call that. We would call that like a franchising model. Once you've got a NFL franchise, you're in. Do you know what I mean? Whether you don't win one game or whether you win every single game, the next year you have still got a place within the NFL league. Do you know what I mean? You've got that. We've started to incorporate that within rugby league. Next year is the first year where we're not going to have promotion and relegation for some time. We have trialed this in the past, but they're doing it again, whereby the top 12 rugby league teams, because this is another thing about rugby, and I'm going to talk about this when we move on to the rugby versus football bit in a second. I think we'll come on to that in a second. So let's talk about rugby versus American football, because football, soccer, I think we've established that there's a hell of a disparity, and the easiest comparison between the sports would be to compare, I think, Minnie, to compare football in the UK and compare that to football, basically American football, in the US. They're the closest in terms of comparison, in terms of like the national sport, the biggest sport where the most money is, where the athletes are paid ridiculous sums of money that
Absolutely.
nobody ever wants, nobody ever needs. Do you know what I mean? More money than you could shake a stick at. So football is very, very similar. And I think that ties quite well in the way that rugby is seen in the UK and soccer is seen in the US. I mean, football is probably, well, it is our major sport, but we've got the likes of cricket, which probably comes above rugby. Do you know what I mean? As another sport, obviously, that we would consider like a national sport, even something like bloody tennis or something like that. There's loads of other little things that probably would generate more money than what rugby does. And I'm doing this purely from a financial front. But rugby in the UK actually has two different codes. So there's rugby league and then there's rugby union, which are two completely separate sports. Yes, they have their own similarities. They use the same shaped ball. They have scrums or scrimmages, as you may call them, where obviously everybody packs down into the middle and the ball's fed in and then see what happens with it. That happens. There are some similarities, but they are very, very different games, rugby league and rugby union. So, and they're also very, very differently financed, and they're also very different geographically, even within the UK. Rugby league is a very, very northern game. It's a very, very northern game, and it sort of spans across one road, a road known as the M62. If anybody ever wants to Google it, we call it the M62 corridor. But the majority of teams that are in the top flight sit on that one road, going across from sort of Manchester way across to where I am in Hull. That is the corridor where the majority of the teams are. Now, yes, we do have a team from London. Yes, we do have a team from France. Everybody else fits into that narrative of being basically on that one road, the M62. And it's very strange. Obviously, south of that and even north of that, rugby is deemed, rugby union would be their main sport, and rugby union is far better financed than rugby league is. It's got far more money in it. It's got far more precedent to it. The World Cup generates a lot more views. Obviously, they've got things like the Four Nations mini, haven't they? Obviously, which draw massive crowds, and people have obviously got massive interest to it. The national teams play a lot more as well. England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. I mean, all them sort of things. There's a hell of a lot more gravitas to rugby union than what there is to rugby league, despite me thinking that rugby league is a far better game. And again, I'm glad that Stewie's not physically on the podcast with us, because he would disagree with me greatly, and he would tell you that kick and clap, as we like to call it, rugby union, would be actually a better game. But I mean, that's just the general bits of where sort of rugby works. But I mean, in terms of American football and rugby, one of the biggest things, and there's a Minnie mentioned this when we brought this topic up. What do you think of, Minnie, when you think of American football?
They wear way too much padding. What's going on?
What on earth is that about?
Not too much.
What is that all about, Silvis? Why do they wear so much padding? It's ridiculous how much they wear. And can they even see out of them helmets?
Oh, of course they can see. Why wouldn't they? But to answer your question, it's all about safety, reducing risk, reducing injuries, even death in some cases. We've had scares where players have gotten hurt, and that's obviously not the intent of the game, but the reality is it's a dangerous game. So they have padding, they have increased technology in the helmets to be better aware of concussions and everything else that is engineered into how they suit up to make sure that they are able to walk home at the end of the night.
But I mean, obviously they wear all that padding. Minnie, what's your take on it before I throw my two penneth in?
It's pathetic. Look, they're the pretty boys, aren't they? I've just realised, as he was explaining then, you're only a rugby player if you've got cauliflower ears, a broken nose, and 7 missing teeth.
Oh, that's hockey. That's hockey. Hockey is completely different. If you want to talk about injuries and fights and anything else, that's hockey.
Is it true that
field hockey?
No, ice hockey you're on about, are you?
No.
Is it true,
field
right,
hockey doesn't exist.
In ice hockey, if a fight starts, the referees just leave it, don't they?
Yeah, until one of the players falls to the ice, then they break it up. But if a fight breaks out, they just let it go until it ends, and then it's a 2-minute minor, or maybe it's a 5-minute major, or for a penalty for both players, and then they just continue on with the game. They can come back in 2 or 5 minutes and start playing again.
You heard it here first. First, folks. So we have had dancing on ice. We've now got boxing on ice, known as the National Hockey League. Boxing on ice.
To be fair, the referee, he wears no padding, does he? He's just got a little trucker hat on, and his black and white shirt. I'd run away as well.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, because they've got a hell of a lot.
He's not running. He's standing right there next to him to make sure that he can stop it when he needs to.
God.
Essentially they only stop it when they fall to the ice, so that they don't cut your neck open with slashing of your skates.
Bloody hell! I just find it insane. I mean,
because that has happened.
I believe it, because I mean, them ice skates, they can cause a hell of an injury, couldn't they? They could cause a massive injury if something happened with one of them. I totally agree with that. Yeah. But I mean, I just look at people playing rugby every weekend. I mean, I'm a referee for rugby league, talking of referees. And I mean, I see it on a weekend when I do referee, the aggression that goes into some of those tackles. And the majority of the time, people walk up completely unscathed. I mean, in a standard rugby match, there's probably 500 tackles in a full game, and you might get 1 to 2 injuries. So I just feel like they've gone far too over the top with the padding and protection I just don't think it's necessary. I think it makes it look it looks silly to me. It looks a little bit daft to me, and I just don't get it. I just don't understand why it's so much. And I'm going to
put down a prediction right now that as soon as this pod releases, Putz is going to come into the chat and he's going to light you up for what you're saying about the National Football League and their padding. I get the feeling that he's going to be all over you for insinuating
To
that
be
safety is
fair,
not.
Silvis, to be fair, if you had refereeing out there which would punish people for going above the neck, so there were less head injuries and there were less, people being grabbed by the throat, then what else do you need padding for? It's called muscle.
Are you allowed
It's
to
called
hit people
muscle,
in
man.
the head in American football? Can you
It's a penalty.
Oh, right. So you can't take you can't take people's heads off, which is right. I mean, obviously, you talk about technology and stuff in the helmets and things. We've just brought it into rugby league, where every player wears the same gum shield, which has got like shock detectors in it, which can obviously detect if you've taken a whack to the head, and it analyzes it, and then they take them off for like concussion tests and things like that. And there's like sit out protocols where if you do fail the head injury assessment, that you've got to take particular time out of the game, 10 to 14 working days, depending on how old you are and how often that it's happened. So they are starting to protect people a lot more than what they used to in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even up to sort of 4 or 5 years ago, where it wasn't as protected as what it was now. They are adding extra things into the game. I just think American football's gone far too far. I just think it just looks like a load of fairies dancing about in big outfits. Do you know what I mean? It looks absolutely ridiculous. I do enjoy the game. I like the aggression of the game, but also it's so bloody slow. Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll
isn't
agree
it?
with that.
God.
It is slow.
It takes so long to do anything. I mean, they only play for an hour, don't they? Don't they play 4 15-minute quarters?
Yes.
They only play for an hour. It takes about 3 years to get a match out the way. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It's a 3-hour game.
That's what I mean. 3 hours. We play 80 minutes for rugby, 80
And that's
minutes,
End
and
of.
it lasts 90 minutes because there's 10 minutes for half time. An hour and a half,
Yep.
you've played 80 minutes. So we've played 20 minutes more than you in half the time. It's just so slow for that. When something does happen in American football, I will hand my hat off. It looks brilliant. When you see a quarterback launching the ball and it goes like 40, 50, 60 yards, or somebody catches it in the, I'm going to get this right, in zone.
Yes.
That's right, isn't it? Somebody catches it. It looks spectacular. I cannot take that away from it. But it just takes so long for anything to actually happen. I honestly think, right, and I say this about people in this country, if people who follow football started watching rugby league, they would stop watching football because football is pedestrian and rubbish by comparison to rugby league. That's a fact. Even rugby union, it's pedestrian, it's boring.
No.
If people who watch
No.
American football,
To be
started watching rugby league, they would stop watching American football and start watching rugby league because it is far better of a game. Minnie, I'll give you your
I would
opportunity. I'll give you your opportunity.
Who, me?
Yep.
Or Silvis?
Either of you. I don't care.
Yeah.
Because I'm right, so
Okay.
you can argue with me. But
I
where do you say
I went to see Leicester Tigers, and I was very impressed how when the referee called over the captain, and it was all vocalized across the stadium, what the referee said, what the captain said, they were very polite, very, very polite. And if they got a telling off, they got a telling off. Whereas compared to football or soccer,
yeah, ridiculous.
it's like no, you can't do that. And then like you've got a card for dissent, and they do it again, and it gets ignored. And it's like either go by the same rules or don't bother.
Agreed.
I can agree with that. However, as a sport, they are totally different.
Totally different. Yeah, exactly. One's boring, one's worth watching. I totally agree. Go on, Silvis, defend American football from me. Why on earth would anybody... You've never watched a game of rugby league. I might put you through one day. You know what? On stream, I might see if I can get permission from somebody from the RFL to play a game of rugby over a Twitch stream, and I'll make you watch even 20 minutes, half an hour of one. And I guarantee you're not a huge sport watcher anyway, are you? But you will see and you will like the difference between it. I think anybody would choose to watch rugby over football, soccer, or American football. That was a terrible American accent. I'm so sorry to all the Yanks out there. I don't mean to offend you. I do not mean to do that. I'm very, very sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've already done it plenty tonight, so don't stop now.
That is the point of the segment, though. Absolutely. So massive, massive differences between the two. I think, like I said earlier on, I think the biggest parallels is football and and Yank football, Brit football, they're probably the most comparable in terms of their size, scale, money, and all that sort of thing. And they are the national sports. I just think that both countries could do so much better in choosing a national sport. And we're going to leave that there. We are now going to move on to our Star Trek topic of the pod. And the topic today that I've asked the panel to consider is answer this question. If you were to be reincarnated and you could choose any race from Star Trek, what would you choose to be and why? So if you could choose to be any race in Star Trek that we know of, what would you choose to come back as and why? We'll start with the Tribble Mother herself, and I'm banning you from saying you want to come back as a Tribble.
I was not going to say that. I was not going to be that obvious. I want to come back as a beagle.
A beagle?
No, I'm kidding.
Come on.
No, I was kidding, obviously. Do you know, it's a really hard one because I was think about this. It was like, well, obviously I can't be human because I'm already one of those. So what would I want to come back as? And it's like, well, I really like the idea of being a host to a symbiont. So obviously be a Trill.
Okay.
But then the life of servitude that they have to lead before that, it's like, no, I couldn't do that. And then it's like Bajoran. I'd be Bajoran. Yes, that's brilliant. But then they went through the whole being invaded. Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure. I think, you look at Vulcans and they're a bit boring. I mean, they're clever, but no emotion. So I'm going to go with Ferengi because they have fun. They've got a goal, and that is to make money. And they don't care what they look like. The bigger the lobes, the better. So I would come back as a Ferengi.
I think when you
wears clothes just to shock everyone.
Yeah, please do. I'm joking. I'm only joking. So, I mean, when you talk about the Trill thing, interesting. Do you think would you prefer to come back as a Trill humanoid, or here's an idea, here's a concept. What about coming back as an actual Trill symbiont? I think that could be interesting because obviously they go through multiple hosts, live multiple lives. Could you imagine the plethora and the diversity between different lives that you could live if you decided to come back as a symbiont and live within multiple humanoid bodies? I'd never thought of that.
That sounds fantastic. Because when Cisco talks to Dax and calls him old man, and he talks about all the things that they'd done together as when they were young. It's like, yeah, you got lifetimes of learning.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've got one lifetime now of sitting around on my arse doing nothing. So I'm not sure 17 of them would do my figure any good.
No, but I suppose the symbiont.
To be honest, I'm just being honest.
No, we always have honesty. Always have honesty here on Brits and Yanks Talk Trek. I really like it. So you're thinking Ferengi, and do you know what? Just to dovetail, I had a really good think about this, and I sort of came to a very similar conclusion. When I think about the likes of the Federation and things like that, and I think that they don't have a monetary system anymore. Do you know what I mean? They go to work for the progression of themselves, for the development of mankind, to better themselves, to be the best version of themselves. I don't know if that would be enough for me. I think the Ferengi need for acquisition and wealth and to better themselves financially and to tick boxes and to do scheming and to do deals. And, they work from a very particular set of rules, don't they, with the rules of acquisition. But so they've got a good mantra in the back of it. But I just keep thinking to myself, I think I'm in a similar vein to you, that I think I would need that in the background. I think I'd need that additional purpose. I don't know, like you've said, that if I didn't have to, if I had a replicator in the corner and a holodeck in the other room, I don't know if I'd ever leave my house. I've got no reason to leave.
Do you know what? Would you ever use them though? We talked about this last time, didn't we? I'd love a holodeck. Would I use it? Probably not.
Oh, you see, I would. I wouldn't leave. If we had a replicator and a holodeck, you tick them two boxes. If you've not got any reason to go out and earn money and go do X, Y, and Z and deal with this, you've got no real purpose of living, have you? Do you know what I mean?
No drive.
No, drive. That's exactly the question I'm thinking. That's exactly the phrase I'm thinking of. You've got what drives you. I mean, what drives me at the moment is to actually do my job day to day. Is to think that I want to be able to go on nice holidays. I want to be able to go to Star Trek convention next year. What do I need to do that? I need money. I need time to do that. I need to work. So that motivates me to get up in the morning, turn my laptop on, and actually start working and deal with things. If I didn't have that drive, it'd be so easy just to wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, I'll think about something tomorrow." Replicator, make me a bacon sandwich. Do you know what I mean? A real proper British bacon, not that crap that the Yanks eat. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, it'd be so easy for me to do that, and I feel that I would need it. And I think the Ferengi are the only race that offer me what I think that I would look for. So I'm in 100% agreement with you, Minnie. There are a couple of other little races that I think it would be super interesting to be. But Silvis, let's say yours then. So if you was to come back, apart from a Vulcan, because Minnie just said they're all boring people, she did hint at you there. Did you hear that? How harsh is that? How harsh is that? But no,
Wow.
I'm joking. Go on, Silvis. What would you come back as?
It's fine. My family knows I'm a Vulcan at heart. You actually mentioned the first one that I was thinking of, which is Trill. You mentioned the life of servitude and everything, but I am still a really big fan of getting to experience multiple lifetimes of experiences and memories, and use that to your advantage in whatever you're doing. Obviously, you have to be selected. There's a limited supply, and you have to be a match to that symbiote. But I think it would be really interesting to be able to have that set of experiences of having a symbiote, and to ensure that your quote unquote legacy, your memories are passed on to another person, another generation.
I might not want some of my memories passed on to a future generation, but so I mean, so from the host versus symbiont argument, you think you would lean more towards being a host and just inheriting all of these memories, thoughts, ideas.
Yeah, and like you mentioned having a drive in the series, there definitely is a requirement for drive. You have to study a lot, and there's all these requirements for even applying to be a host. So you would still have that sense of a goal and reaching an accomplishment, and then you have that when you hit that goal and you get a symbiote, and you've got that for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
and it lives on through other people who you won't know, who aren't related to you, who might not know who you are.
Yeah,
But it gives you a sense of identity in future generations.
it's basically a guaranteed legacy, isn't it? You're leaving a guaranteed legacy that doesn't die with you. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't die with you. It continues. It's perpetual.
They're called kids.
Until the symbiont is no longer capable of being with the host.
Yeah.
I did want to bring up one other race that I think would just be a ton of fun, hilarious, and that would be the Q.
I've just circled that on my notepad.
If you could come back as a Q, whether that's to make practical jokes at Jean-Luc Picard on the Enterprise, or to actually better humanity in some way in some part of the galaxy, to be able to have that immortality and power.
Yeah, I mean, that is the ultimate goal of any 5-year-old, isn't it?
Totally.
So just, I mean, I do wonder though if it throws another thing in, just to play devil's advocate, if the idea of omnipotence actually becomes boring. Could that ever become boring? The fact that
I think they tried to bring that out.
Yeah, they did.
In like John Quincy's
Yeah.
Q. They in both the Next Generation and Voyager, any episodes with Q, you might see that he was just bored, so he decided to show up and and mess with Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah.
Or I didn't want to mess with Janeway a whole lot, but that's beside the point.
No, absolutely not. No, but that's what I mean. But I think that was a really good storyline for him to explore, that he wanted mortality. Do you know what I mean? He wanted mortality. He wanted basically to die because he'd done everything that he wanted to do. He didn't want to do it anymore. And he just wanted an end to it. And for us, mere mortals who've got a lifespan, 100 years? Let's call it an average 100 years by the time we get there. That's going to be realistic.
That's up on the upper end, but yeah.
But obviously, by the time we get there, it's probably going to be quite realistic for people to be living in the hundreds. Do you know what I mean? We're all sub 50.
Potentially.
It's going to be realistic in the next 40, 50 years that people are quite comfortably living to 100, where they're living to 80 now, and 50 years ago they were living to 70. Do you know what I mean? That average age, the average mortality rate is increasing. But that 100-year lifespan that we've got, we know we only get one shot at this. We know we only get one shot at life. We've got to take life by the scruff of the neck, haven't we, and do what we want to do, knowing full well that our time is very, very limited. And in essence, quite short as well. And that gives you motivation. And going back to that keyword you said earlier, it gives you the drive to try and make every day count. Whereas with complete omnipotence, does that drive remove itself? Again, to go back to what I was saying earlier about having me replicator and sat in my pants in my holodeck, could I be bothered knowing full well that I had an unlimited amount of time, days, years, months, decades, I mean, however long, centuries, millennia, do you know what I mean? I had all these things that I could do whatever I wanted to. What's my motivation to do something today?
The difference is, as a Q, the universe is your playground, and you can have anything at the snap of your fingers.
Yeah, but he's got a holodeck.
But it's a limit for real.
I'm not even going to argue that.
No, I know that was a tough one to come back from, wasn't it? When you've got a holodeck, basically holodeck just makes you a mini Q, doesn't it? Where you can do whatever you want on there. Do you know what? That's a really good point. That was never explored, was it? Somebody never went onto the holodeck into a Q simulation, did they? And just started snapping the fingers and doing things. There we go. We've even come up with a concept for another Star Trek episode. Absolutely marvelous. No, I had Q on my pad for the same point because I thought it would give us both varying aspects of how amazing it would be, but then could it be fulfilling for eternity? I think that would be that. But thank you so much, everybody, for watching. If you haven't already, please make sure that you are downloading this on any platform that you want to listen to. We are available on all major platforms. If you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a 6 out of 5 star review on there. We're going to be reading reviews now that we've started to got a few coming through, so we'll start reading them on future shows. Please join our Discord. You can get all the great tools which are created by Stewie Doo. You can get the charts that Silvis makes as well. They are all fantastic. Go and support them, guys. Give them a thumbs up, and obviously let them know how much you use and appreciate those tools. Check out any of our other channels, please. We are live on Twitch. My name is It's Lube, and you've got Minnie as well, which is Minnie Mabel. So check us out when we're live on there. And YouTube, you can find me at It's Lube as well. Leave us all feedback, everything that you've got. That would be absolutely great. Questions, topics for future shows, as I've mentioned, drop them in our Discord. That would be amazing, and we will try and cover those as we progress through our podcast creation journey. Check out our website where you can get all of our merch. It's itslube.com, and consider becoming a member. Obviously, you can do that now at the low cost of just a coffee a month. It's $3 is the absolute lowest membership. There are other ones for anybody that wants to support the channel financially by any more. And obviously, you can get all the merch, as I mentioned before, that Candy White expertly curates for us. It's absolutely amazing stuff on there. It's absolutely superb. And like I say, we have now got a really nice list of members starting to come through. So I'm going to say a huge thank you to all of them right now. I'm going to say a massive thank you to Minnie, Antares, Sorella, Deja, Trek Diva, Andy, KKC, Moth, and our latest member, Dr. Iron Chef. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. I'm going to say a huge thank you to Silvis for being here tonight. Thank you so much, buddy. And thank you so much to Minnie Mabel as well for being here. We will be back with our next episode of Brits and Yanks Talk Trek very, very soon. So please make sure you are following the podcast. And for now, we are out. And remember that everything is better with lube. Take care and have a wonderful day, everybody.
Bye.
Kapla!